What's up, everyone? All right, I want to talk about the 5 things you need to stop doing as a beginner guitar player to get better faster. I do have students that'll reach out to me before we start lessons and say, how long will it take me to get better or get from point A to point B? Now, this is different for everybody because if we're not playing with appropriate technique or somewhat appropriate technique, what we're basically doing is making everything much more difficult for us. I would say, in the beginner range, that the average beginner guitar player is making things about 4 to 5 times more difficult for them because of the way that we all play when we first pick up the guitar, and I'm going to explain that. That means that everything that we're learning at first is taking 4 to 5 times longer. Now, sometimes this is even more severe if you keep playing with these bad habits that I want you to get away from, because then they become solidified within your playing. And not only do you have to get rid of them, you have to unlearn them, rather than just starting from a different place. You have to unlearn it because it's become so comfortable to learn it and play it the wrong way. So let's get into it. Let's talk about the left hand. I want to talk about pinching the guitar, okay? So when we grab the guitar at first, we're so used to sort of grabbing handlebars, or, baseball bat, hammer, whatever it is, and that feels very comfortable to us. This does not. Having the space down here, it would be like, grabbing, like, instead of like grabbing a mug and drinking it this way, it's sort of like if you're holding it like this, out with your fingers, kind of weird, not very stable, and that's what we need to think about when we're playing the guitars. We don't need this massive control over the neck of the instrument. Okay, what we want to be doing is pinching. So one of the main issues that I see a lot in students, and this is very hard for people to recognize at first, is they sort of putting their palm back here, and their thumb sort of slides on the back, right? And now when you're playing, I can barely even play something that way. What you want to be doing is thinking about, if you put your hand out. Now, I teach a lot of beginner guitar classes for little kids. So what I'll usually tell them is, put your hand out. And what I want you to do is pretend that your hand is, your little brother, your little sister, your cousin, somebody that you want to pinch and hurt. And I want you to pinch them as hard as you can. What you'll notice is that your first finger turns in and points directly into your thumb, right? So that's what we're doing here. We're pinching in. We're pointing our finger directly into the string, and we're letting the thumb, because this muscle down here is a lot stronger than these muscles. And this can hold a bunch more of the strength and let our fingers be a little bit free. Yes, we're going to develop finger strength, but we don't want those fingers to be tight and tense and really pressing down. They don't need to. It does not take that much strength to play those notes. So think about pinching and making sure that your fingers are pointed a little bit more directly into the string. Now, it depends what you're playing. But we want to make sure they're pointed into those strings, right? And not laying flat like this. And I can tell if I'm pointing in, as soon as I start to lay this flat, I'm starting to lose some strength. And that's just like this. If I pinch like that, that's a little bit more difficult than pointing my finger directly in. All right, so that's the first thing with the left hand. Now, the second thing that I want to get into is if we try to match that with what the right hand is doing. If we can allow our thumb to take that strength by being on the back of the neck here, right? And then we're sort of curled and pinched in, we notice it does not take that much strength to press the string down to get the sound. We want this hand to do the same. Just like we talked about this sort of safety, grabbing the neck just like that, this doesn't feel like much now, right? This feels like very little is happening. Same with our picking hand. Down and up picks, and you don't want to go that far away from the string. Usually, now it depends on the age. This might be a little bit of a younger kid thing, is over picking. Right? Because that's a sensation. We can feel this, right? At first, this is very difficult to feel, right? This is almost, again, operating at almost nothing. So I want to make sure that we can really develop that. This is going to develop that small muscle group that we can build a foundation off of. If we're starting with over squeezing and overplaying, everything that we're going to be doing is way more difficult. When you think about it like this, all right, if you are squeezing really hard and then you have to sort of let go, bring your fingers off the string, and then press down again really hard, we're covering that much space. Really, if you just press down appropriately and then lift up and press down appropriately again, we're operating within this much space, making everything that we're learning faster, freer, and easier. We can see if I play just, it doesn't take that much effort. Even though I've been playing for a while, it doesn't at first if we can get this sort of appropriate strength and not overuse and overexertion. Okay, we're gonna go back to the fretboard hand. And there are a few more advanced exercises that sort of train your fingers to stay down. What I want to get away from is lifting your fingers up when you're not using them. Again, this is creating way more space. If I'm way up here, because I'm playing with my first finger and I got to play with my third finger, I have all this space to cover. To go through something a little bit easier, if you guys are able to do your sort of 1, 2, 3, 4 chromatic exercises, wherever you do them. Now, I'll for beginners, have them move a little bit up here. They're not reaching for it, and the frets are a little bit smaller. Just do 1, 2, 3, 4. Just leave your fingers down. And then bring them up and go to the next string. But try to leave them down and not bring them way up, way up. Whatever fingers you're not using, don't pull them way up. See if you can do that. And see if you can do that without having to over squeeze. This is, again, because you want to bring your fingers up. We don't need this finger to raise up when this finger is the one playing it. Same here. These fingers behind can do whatever they want because the vibration's coming from here up, okay? Leave them down. Nice and easy, right? Don't over squeeze. There's no reason for it. All right, we've been talking a bit about sort of operating in a very light and relaxed way. This is going to be the same with holding our pick. Now, I don't always get into pick holding necessarily, and the reason is because I had an amazing guitar teacher who holds his pick very, very unorthodox. So when he was telling me this, he was sort of guiding me into the appropriate way to hold it, but was also just like, you can get around while holding it like a bunch of different ways, but let's just dive into the best way. How I like to do it is, if you make a fist, right, and then you sort of just open up those knuckles, right? And your thumb is sort of down here now. Put your thumb up here, right? Sort of resting on your first finger. And that ends up being like your flagpole, okay? And then this is your flag coming out. And the pick is pointed with this knuckle of your first finger. Now that's the best way to do it. And then you can sort of wiggle it around and get like a little bit loose. Now again, as we're sort of operating at a very relaxed way, what we don't want to do is over squeeze. If I'm over squeezing this pick, I'm using a lot of force. All of this is tense, which is not great. And then our picking is going to be coming from our elbow. And that elbow is not all these muscles. They're big muscles. They're made for, swinging a hammer, swinging a baseball bat. They're not made for this small amount of picking, right? So let's get to something a little bit smaller. Okay, what I like to do also is sort of anchor with these two fingers at first. That takes the tension and the need to use our elbow away, right? We're almost not using these muscles at all. And we're just gonna do it down, up. Really loose. Now I could do the same thing if I kind of go back to the original, right? These fingers aren't really doing much, right? That was just to get our pick positioning, right? So you can sort of use them as a little bit of an anchor if you'd like, or just up here, but we're not swinging with our elbow, right? We need to use small muscles for small movements and keep them as relaxed as possible. The last one is a little bit of a bigger one. All right, we're going to talk about chords. This last one's a little bit of a bigger one. Kind of has a couple little insights in, but we're going to talk about chords now. If we're playing this, that you're starting to get used to the guitar, you're playing really lightly, you realize you don't have to squeeze, you're pinching the neck, but you don't have to press down that hard, you don't have to drill your pick way into it, you're playing nice and relaxed. Just because we go to a chord, which is going to be using more than just one finger, you'll notice that doesn't take that much pressure, that doesn't take that much pressure, nor does that, nor does that. So when we put them together, we don't need to now multiply the pressure by 4 and squeeze. It's still just as relaxed. The same thing. If I'm relaxed, that means I'm going to get off the chord and to the next chord relaxed that quickly. If I'm squeezing, I have to like relax, lift it up, press down, and then squeeze that much harder. And we're covering way more ground and we're taking way more time. All right, so that is a huge one. The other thing that I would like, if you're getting into chords, to not fall back on as a bad habit is this sort of double and triple check. What I mean by that is, if I'm just doing a simple G to C, all right, let that top note ring out a little bit at first. Just train your fingers to get there on time, and move like. Get those switches. Doesn't matter if it sounds right. Let it sound at first. If we're always double and triple checking, which every student does, right? Stop, switch, look, and play, right? We're not going to start adapting to our ability to mute some of the notes that we don't want coming through in the chords, or just a quick reaction, because everything that we're playing is so carefully planned out. When I'm playing this, and I go to my C, right, I'm muting that top string a little bit with my third finger, and I'm sort of aiming a little bit below that. But if every time I go to that C, I look, make sure that's good, make sure this is good, make sure I'm starting on my fifth string, go back and back, I'm not going to learn those little ways to navigate through those chords as quick as I would if I sort of just allow the changes to happen naturally and then adapt to making them sound appropriate. So anyway, that is what I deal with a lot of my beginner students. I hope that helps everybody, and I will see you guys